The diner was buzzing that Saturday evening, filled with the smell of sizzling bacon and coffee strong enough to wake the dead. At a corner booth, 16-year-old Emily sat with her father, trying to hide behind the laminated menu. She always tried to shrink herself, to go unnoticed. But it rarely worked. Her frame was larger than most girls her age, and no matter how sweet or gentle her nature, her body seemed to attract cruel eyes and crueler words. The bell above the door jingled, and a group of local high school boys swaggered in. Emily recognized them instantly. They were the same boys who had tormented her at school for years. Their laughter carried across the room, sharp and mocking. Emily felt her chest tighten. She knew what was coming. "Hey, look who it is," one of them sneered loud enough for everyone to hear. Big Emily. The farm cow. Their table erupted in laughter. Another one mooed, dragging the sound out until even a couple of strangers chuckled nervously, unsure whether to intervene. Emily's eyes burned with tears, and she wanted to vanish into the booth. But across from her, her father, John, didn't flinch. He stirred his coffee, calm as a stone. He was a big man too, not overweight, but solid, his broad shoulders stretching the seams of his worn jacket. Years of working the farm kept him strong, but that wasn't the whole story. The townsfolk only whispered about his past, but no one really knew. John had been a Marine, and not just any Marine. He'd served in some of the darkest corners of the world, places where only ruthless men survived. Emily's hands trembled as the boys walked closer, circling her booth like wolves scenting weakness. One of them leaned over, pretending to pat her on the shoulder. "Careful now," he mocked, "we don't want to get grease on us." The diner grew silent. The waitress froze mid-step, unsure whether to step in. Emily's throat closed, her humiliation flooding out in hot, choking sobs. She glanced at her father, begging him with her eyes not to let this spiral. But John simply folded his napkin, placed it neatly beside his plate, and stood up. His voice was low, calm, yet carried the weight of authority that silenced the room. "Son," he said, locking eyes with the ringleader, "you've got exactly 3 seconds to back away from my daughter." The boy smirked, mistaking John's calmness for weakness. "Or what, old man? You gonna move too?" John's gaze didn't waver. His hands didn't shake. But something in his eyes, cold, steady, unblinking, made even the toughest of the bullies falter. He'd seen that look before, though he couldn't place it. The air shifted. The diner wasn't just a diner anymore, it was a battlefield, and John had just taken command. The boy laughed nervously, trying to hide his unease. "Relax, we're just joking." But John stepped forward, his voice dropping lower. "You think humiliating a young girl is a joke. You think breaking someone down makes you strong. I've met real men. Men who would eat you alive. And let me tell you something." He leaned closer, his tone sharp as a knife. "You don't scare me. And you will never scare her again." For the first time in her life, Emily saw her tormentors hesitate. The cocky smirks faded. John's presence filled the room, his military discipline radiating like fire. The leader of the bullies took a step back, his face pale. But John wasn't done. "I fought in places you can't pronounce, against men you couldn't imagine in your worst nightmares. You think you're tough. You're nothing but cowards hiding behind each other's laughter. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to my daughter, right now, in front of everyone." The silence was suffocating. The boys shuffled awkwardly, glancing at one another. For a moment, Emily thought they would bolt. But John's glare held them in place. One by one, their arrogance crumbled. Finally, the ringleader mumbled, "Sorry." John's voice cracked like thunder. "Louder." "I'm sorry," the boy said again, this time louder, his voice trembling. Emily's heart pounded. She had never seen anyone stand up for her like this. Her father's words carved into her soul, rewriting every cruel memory she had carried for years. "Now," John said, still calm, "you're going to walk out of here and think about the kind of men you want to be. Because if I ever hear you lay a finger, or a word, on my daughter again, you'll wish the worst day of your life was the day you met me." The bullies turned and fled, the diner door slamming shut behind them. A few people clapped quietly, but most just stared, stunned by the raw power of what they had witnessed. Emily sat frozen, her tears now falling for a different reason. Relief, pride, and love. John sat back down, as if nothing had happened. He reached for his coffee again, calm and steady. Emily wiped her eyes, her voice breaking. Dad, I didn't know you. You didn't need to know, he said gently, looking at her with softer eyes now. What you need to know is this: you are stronger than you think. And you're worth more than every cruel word they could ever throw at you. You hear me? Emily nodded, her chest swelling with something she hadn't felt in years: courage. For the first time, she wasn't just a fat farm girl. She was the daughter of a man who had stared down monsters and lived to tell the tale. And if he believed she was strong, then maybe, just maybe, she could believe it too. That night, as they drove home past endless rows of cornfields, Emily looked at her father's profile in the dim glow of the dashboard. For the first time, she saw him not just as her dad, but as a shield, a warrior, a man who had carried scars so she wouldn't have to. And deep inside, she promised herself she would grow into the kind of strength he had shown her: quiet, unshakable, and fierce in the face of cruelty. Because bullies could break her down only if she let them. And tonight, she realized she would never let them again.